Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. We're grateful you can join us for another week.
We certainly are.
And today we're very excited. We have Bambi Corso-Steinmeyer on with us. Bambi is the author of Dream Tracking, Track Your Dreams and Transform Your Life. Her passion and exploration of dream work spans more than 40 years, and she has journaled over 8,000 of her own dreams. Wow. Working with her dreams for so many years has given her tremendous insight into every aspect of her life, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Knowing the immense guidance and wisdom available through dream work, she is committed to teaching others how to work and understand their dreams for personal transformation and growth. By bringing conscious awareness to their dreams, people can live more passionate, purposeful, and authentic lives. Bambi serves on the Southern California Regional Committee of the International Association for the Study of Dreams. She was a review editor for the Dream Network Journal for 9 years and is a Law of Attraction certified coach. In addition, she is a contributing author to the book 101 Great Ways to Enhance Your Career. Bambi is an avid lover of animals and nature and advocates for their well-being, survival, and conservation. She is the co-founder of Poison Free Conejo Valley, whose mission it is to educate the community about the harmful effects of rodenticides on wildlife, pets, and children. So welcome, Bambi. We're super excited to have you with us today.
Thank
We
you.
sure
Thank
are.
you. So good to be with you both, Kim and Barb.
So
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, so we read your bio. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got on this track with your dream tracking and things like that?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm one of those people who I started really, really young. I grew up in a family where my parents were both just very open-minded thinkers. So we always had a lot of fun books around the house and about, the power of thought and subconscious and all that. So I was already kind of primed when I started having dreams at a very young age. But it was about the age of 15 that I had a dream that was so intense. When I woke up, I thought, my gosh, there has to be so much more to dreaming than I even know. And so that was the launch, this one dream one day. And I started looking for ways to work with my own dreams and trying to figure it out. And back then, there was not a lot of books on dreams. There was more therapeutic approaches to dreams, but there were dream dictionaries. And so I started off on that path, and I'm like, this is not, this isn't helping me to understand my own dreams. And so I just continued a lifelong journey. I've gotten certifications from Dream Tending with Stephen Eisenstadt, and I'm just a constant learner. And I just am absolutely passionate about dream work because I've seen how it changes people's lives.
That's very neat.
Yeah.
I dream journal myself, so
Oh, good.
yeah, I love keeping track of it, and then it's interesting sometimes how it plays out. And like even today, last night actually, I was dreaming about the interviews that we were doing today and how they were going to go and things like that. So it was really an interesting dream because I don't usually dream that way.
Well,
So
that's interesting. Well, and I find that dreams oftentimes will help us prepare for things. So whether we're, kind of sorting things out at night, or whether we're actually picking up on information that will help us, in the following day or days, you never know.
did,
That's very true. Actually, I've been one that followed dreams too most of my life, and it was fun when the kids were younger, sort of thing. When I was doing more of it than I am now, the kids would always come to me and say, "I had this dream. Can you tell me what that means?" And then we would just decipher it and go through it. But you're right, dreams are magical about what they do to our everyday life, and what they can lead us into.
Yeah, absolutely. And you only get to find that out when you start actually playing with them and you
Yes.
start writing them down, right?
Absolutely. So how do you do dream tracking then? Like what are some tips you could give to people or how to start off on that journey?
So the first thing Well, and you know, it's interesting too, Kim, because the whole idea of dream tracking came to me in a dream back in 2002. And I hadn't even been thinking about that as a way of working with dreams at that point. But when I woke up with the dream and I had the name of the book, I thought, my gosh, this is so fascinating. And then it took many years for it to kind of evolve and for me to understand what that dream even was kind of calling out of me as far as how I would start doing my own dream work. So the idea with dream tracking is that we have a tendency to think of dreams as these single events. And then, you know, we have the dream and we work on it and we put it away. But we don't always notice that there's a weaving going on between dreams. And it's not the same as a recurring dream at all, anything like that, but it might be that a particular animal keeps showing up, or a person, a setting, an emotion. And so the idea of tracking is literally taken from the idea of trackers in the wild, who really tune into their senses and the small movements of things around them and the little fibers of hair left on a leaf, as if there are clues and signs being left for us in our dreams. So I play with dreams that way. And I'm always looking for, okay, where is this next little clue? How is the dream also pulling me forward? Because I do think that our dreams are always part of our own becoming as well. You know, I mean, there's so many different levels that dreams hit us on. But when I look at them from a tracking perspective, I can see that there is something in the dreams that also is helping move me along in the waking life. So I do a lot of waking life and dream life integration because I have always found in my own work that they completely intertwine and interweave. And it's just about developing the ability to notice that makes a big difference, that we can start really mining that territory for more juicy information.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you do that, so when you dream journal, then I assume that you do that. When you dream journal, then do you also journal like and reflect on what you dreamt and then like look at, hey, that stood out because I've had this, like you said, animal in my dream many times, and I feel like this is where that's significant in my life.
Mm-hmm. I do journal. And I started incorporating day notes into my journaling. And I think it was Barbara Delaney who I first learned about that from. So as you set your journal out at night before you go to bed, you put a couple notes about what happened that day. Because a month from now, a year from now, we're never going to remember what happened a week ago, a year ago. But if I make a few notes, I can understand when I go back and track things to see, you know, is there something similar that is moving through the dreams, or what was going on in my life at that point? It gives me an idea of where I was, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally and spiritually. What was I going through? You know, what was happening? So just a couple sentences about what's happening in my day at the time of the dream. Then I'll write down the dream. And then I do a lot of journaling about what I dreamt when, you know, and of course you can't always do this with every dream as much as we would love to, but you know, the ones that you wake up and you go, oh, that one has to be worked. That one's important. Those are the ones that I really spend a lot of energy on, but I write down every single thing that I can remember because it also helps with that dream memory muscle. And so keeping that primed all the time and by writing down anything I remember is just been a really good practice as well. And also for, you know, another, a journaling, a couple of journaling tips, since you had mentioned that earlier too, is that I always write dreams now in the present tense, because also we tend to look at them once we've woken up as a past event. But in fact, they're not. They're still here now. So if I'm writing that in a present tense, a lot of times I'll just have an aha moment based on the dream says, you know, well, I am feeling like fill in the blank, and I can say, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I'm feeling in my waking life, you know, and what else is there in the dream that can help me move through this? So present tense is really, really important. The day notes are really important. And I have found over time, and especially when we have long dreams, if I start writing a dream at the beginning, by the time I've gotten to the end, I barely remember all the details. And so I have created this little habit where I just do these little bullet points just in the corner of my journal of the main sections of the dream with 1 or 2 words. And then I fill in all the detail. Because then once I've gotten through it, I go, oh yeah, that's right. Oh, there was the boats or whatever it was. And I can put it all in there. So that's been really, really helpful because as both of you as dreamers know, they evaporate so quickly. So, in order to really try to capture as much of the information and remember it, that's been really helpful.
Mom, you have something to say?
No, I didn't actually. I'm just,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
digesting what she's saying. Yeah. Oh, go
Yeah,
ahead, Kim.
I find that that's what I do a lot is when I first get up, a lot of times I'll just, or even in the middle of the night, if I have to get up and I was dreaming, I'll be like, okay, remember the boy with the red balloon, or remember that red boat, or you were in the auditorium with so and so. And then a lot of the times it's almost like it's in the back of my mind running while I'm still dreaming. And then when I wake up, I can kind of pull it all back in. But
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So from experience that really is helpful.
Yeah, it is really helpful. I mean, sometimes write it down. I usually keep a paper by my bed now, and I sometimes write down if I get up in the middle of the night, something that I feel like is important that I want to remember so that you don't have that. Because I almost feel like you don't sleep as well then because you've got that kind of conscious part of your mind running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do the same thing. I'll get up and write it all down and then go back to bed. And sometimes it's funny because a lot of people will ask me, well, if I do that though, then I can't fall back asleep. So I will recommend the bullet point thing
Yeah.
at that point. Okay, so don't get yourself all woken up. Just make a couple of notes, a few words, go back to sleep, and you're probably not going to remember everything, but you're going to remember a lot more than if you wrote nothing down at all.
Exactly. And I think it's always interesting how like people appear in our dreams and like sometimes it's like, why am I not dreaming about this person that's I'm actively involved with, but I'm dreaming about somebody from my past like they are in my present life. And then so it always makes me question, well, is that something, is there some kind of cord that I need to cut there? Or is there something of dredging that up? Could you talk on that a little bit?
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I think that that's true for everybody because we all dream of people from our past. And so the way that I will generally work with that, and yes, also to acknowledge sometimes there may be a cord to be cut. They may be showing up for that. But I think I generally find more often that if I have a dream about somebody from the past, there was always a very specific energy about that particular person that I could remember from that time in my life. So if I look at my current life and maybe I have a boss who talks to me the same way that this person 20 years ago who was my friend talked to me, and I got out of a work situation yesterday and I'm feeling that same kind of emotional experience that I felt with that other person. It's almost like the dream time has this ability to tap into older memories that will remind us of how we have felt. It's almost like I talk about them, I call them memory markers or emotional memory markers, because it's almost like when a song plays on the radio and all of a sudden you're transported back 20 years or 40 years. You go, oh my God, I remember that song. I remember who I was with at that time. I know what's going on. And it's very similar, I think, in the dream time. It still pulls on these things that are still within us. We may not even have recalled them for some time, but maybe something sparked a similar experience or feeling or thought as we had back then with a person from then. So I use it more with association with the person. Yeah.
So, and then I've heard that you never dream about somebody that you have never met. But I can tell you,
Oh.
there's people in my dreams that I know, unless I've passed them on the street and I didn't know, often happens. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh gosh, that's such a big subject. I would agree with you that we dream of people we've never met. I have this belief that, and I know I am not alone, but we are able to tap into unlimited information and knowledge and creativity when we're dreaming. So there aren't any boundaries like there are in the waking life. So, it's not like I had to meet somebody on the street in my waking life in order to dream them. No, I could actually be meeting other things, other people somehow in a dream time where I'm not completely confined by my body, right? So I think that when we dream, I know, I don't personally know, I've met this woman. I heard her give a talk. She met her husband in a dream before she ever met him. And I believe that she actually met him multiple times before they actually met. And there was a period of time, I forget, I don't know if it was like 6 months or 2 years, but she dreamed of him with his face. I mean, it was him. And so when she did meet him, she knew him. She recognized him, but she didn't know him beforehand. So I think, when we're trusting the dream to give us some information or introduce us to somebody, we may or may not ever meet them in waking life, but they still must hold some kind of an important role for us to have at least met them in the dream time.
That makes perfect sense to me. Because I'm like, I can't know these people. I've never met them. I know I haven't. But
Yes.
but and it's so then if you were to get a name in a dream, would it be worth like Googling that name or Googling that? Like I had a dream the other night about this game, and it was really specific about the game and the points and the whole everything, right? And my husband and I were arguing because we're competitive about this game, and he was like, "Why aren't you paying attention? This is what you got to get." Would it be worth Googling to see, or could that just be a creative spark that's coming to you in your dream then?
Oh, another great question. I always love researching information I receive in dreams. Sometimes you will find something and sometimes you won't. So the dream could be pointing something out. That's true with numbers too. It could be a phone number, it could be a name, it could be a piece of information about something. So I do check things out. Sometimes I'll dream of a strange word that I've never heard. And I can look it up and then find out that, there was a word like that used 400 years ago in some other culture. And maybe the word even has a meaning that might relate to my life today. So, again, we tap into this unlimited information and knowledge when we're sleeping. But I always check things out in the waking world to see, is there something also that I am connecting to? Because you don't know. So, yeah. And those are the things, by the way, too. And I think it's important when you're journaling to always write those things down first. If you have a name, a message, if you have a number, if there's something really specific, a title, a song, always write that down first, because those are also the things that will quickly evaporate. And sometimes there's just so much wisdom in those little tidbits,
The other thing that I've heard is like, if you remember your dreams, so I don't necessarily believe this because I often remember my dreams, but it's because I practice at remembering my dreams too, right? But they do say if you remember your dream, it's a message. If you don't, then it's just a dream. I get frustrated sometimes when I have a dream and I want to remember it so bad and it's just poof gone, like my alarm went off and it interrupts that flow or something. Is there anything you can do to help that if that's the journey you want to go on?
As far as the recall
As far as
or
the recall, yeah.
Yeah, and I have I have 10 tips that for me have been like the top 10 tips for dream recall. I have it's a free gift on my website. But there's plenty of little things that you can do for recall. One of the things that they say is don't have a really loud alarm clock. Maybe you have a chime or a soft music that goes off instead, so that you're not, shocked awake, because that will usually scare the dream away so quickly. So that's one of them. Decide on some kind of a gentle waking system for you. Also, not turning over when you first wake up. And I know that sounds really like it's very different. Like, why would that matter? But there is something about staying in the same waking position. Just lay there, keep your eyes closed, and just tune back in. Don't let the day get into your head yet of all the things that we have to do, but stay in that same position. And sometimes you'll start getting little pieces of the dream back. And sometimes all you need, as you both know, is a little tiny piece of the dream, and then boom, the whole thing comes back, So the laying in the same waking position is really, really helpful as well. Gosh, I mean, there's lots of little things that people can do. One of the things, if you don't remember dream, like you were just mentioning, Kim, if you don't remember the dream, see if you remember a feeling. So maybe the dream got scared away by my alarm clock, but did I wake up with a sense of like, oh, I felt really good, or oh, I woke up with a really heavy, intense feeling and I have no idea why. I still write that stuff down, because even though I cannot recapture the whole dream, if I at least acknowledge that there's a sense, it also helps me trust my own sense of things. Or that can give me a little clue about, there's something else going on here. I'm not quite sure what that is. I need to, where else might I be feeling like that right now, or something like that, So even just journaling a feeling in the morning, it can be really, really helpful, just to, again, just keep yourself tapped into that dream time.
Okay. That's a good tip. We'll try that. Because I love dream journaling, so I get frustrated if I can't remember the dream, right? And I mean, sometimes I don't remember them for sure, but I more often do than I don't. So and I guess another question that popped into my head was, so with dream, you were talking about dream dictionaries. And so do you think that they are, because I know they are still out there and floating around in places. So do you think they're actually helpful, or do you think they actually hinder a person? So for example, like if I dreamt about a bear might mean something different to me than it would to you, where in the dream dictionary, it's going to give you a meaning. So I guess that's my question. That makes sense?
My thought on dream dictionaries, I think on the positive end of a dream dictionary is if you have an image and you have no idea what it means, excuse me, you can look something up to see if it starts sparking a thought. Now, that being said, I am really a big believer in our dream images are very, very personal. They are very specific to us. So, let's just say, Barb, you have a dream of a bear, and I have a dream of a bear. And maybe you had a really bad experience with a bear one time, and maybe I'm a wildlife photographer and I love bears. We immediately have two completely different responses to the image of bear. So why is it that Psyche or the dream maker has why have these been placed in our dream when we've seen thousands of images in a day, right? So I really work with dream imagery as something very, very personal, that we have somehow chosen, or something has chosen for us, these dream images that are showing up. So that's why the dream dictionary piece is not, it might say that, bears mean, a superpower. Well, they might, but for me, they might be like, oh my gosh, this is an incredible encounter that I'm experiencing in nature. And it brings up a whole different kind of a feeling. So I work with them as personal images.
True enough. When I talk to people and they ask me about defining their dreams, sort of thing, what I'll also say to them is, so what has been going on in your life lately? Because yeah, because it is personal, just like you said. And I could pick anything out of a hat and say, well, it means that. But yeah, when you say what has been going on in your life, how does that attach to you somehow? And it's really interesting because it does connect with them and something about them.
Very much so. And
Yeah.
they say that the first place to look when you have a dream is the last 24 to 48 hours. Because generally, as we're cycling through and processing things of the day, we'll dream about them in about 24 to 48 hours. And not that there's always that time constraint on it, but that's the first place to check. Like you said, just what was going on in your day? What's been happening? How have you been feeling?
Right. So, what dreams would you say that was so profound to you that made a difference in your life?
Oh gosh, there's so many.
Good question.
I actually, it's one of the dreams that I had in the late 90s. And this was when I was completely passionate about dream work and didn't have a clue that I would be doing it later in life, or that I would actually write a book about dreams. Like, this is way, way back. So I was actually a very shy person growing up. So I was very introverted, very quiet. And I have this dream, and this is when I was up at Pacific. I wasn't at Pacifica, but the president of Pacifica at the time was teaching dream tending, and I was enrolled in these courses. And in the dream, I'm in a huge audience filled with people in the stands, and my mentor walks up and hands me the microphone and says, "I want you to introduce this couple." And I'm terrified. And like, I have never spoken in front of this many people. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to do an introduction. Like, I am completely freaking out in the dream. But what I notice in the stands is there's this couple, and their names are Bob and Hope, and they're part of the Link family, Link. It's like, okay. So I just quickly say, "That's Bob and Hope from the Link family." And I think I hand the microphone back. Well, I wake up from the dream and I go, oh my gosh. I knew, and I know you both have had this experience. I knew I had to get experience at public speaking. It was so clear to me when I woke up, like, that's that inner knowing where you go, okay, the dream said this, but the truth is, if you actually want to be doing this, you're going to have to learn how to speak in public. You can't give presentations and workshops and podcast interviews if you're shy and introverted. I immediately went to a local Toastmasters, and I went in as a guest one night. And so I get there and I walk in the door, and there's a big sign of the name of the club, and it's called Rhetorical Link. I go, really weird. Same word, link family. Okay, right. And then the first thing that the president of the club does is he reads a quote, and he says, "And that was by Bob Hope." I go, oh my gosh, okay, right, Bob and Hope Link. I'm like, okay, it couldn't be more obvious, but this is right, paying attention to the signs of life, right? It wasn't literal, and yet it was literal in this case. I spent 2 years in Toastmasters, and wow, I learned how to do public speaking, and that was the right place for me. It was almost like, the dream knew, again, we were talking about this earlier, that future pull of who we're becoming. It's like it all just came together. And so, yeah, I spent 2 years in Toastmasters, and it changed that part of my life.
Wow.
Beautiful.
So that was a big, meaningful dream.
That's really cool. I love how, like, it ties in, right? Without even knowing how it's going to tie in with that kind of stuff.
Right. And I think that comes down to I think as you're a dream worker, that's anybody who writes down and works with their dreams, right? Anybody who does work on their own dreams, there is a trust that you develop over time with your own dreaming self, because you're always being informed by something in the dream, and in some way, shape, or form. And so I love that part of dream work. I really love that part of dream.
Yeah. If you had something like a quandary you were thinking about, could you set yourself up when you're going into your dream state to find an answer to that issue that's going on in your life?
Yes. Yes. So they call that dream incubation. And I call it planting dream seeds. And it's the same thing. So you pick one thing that you really want information on. And as you're falling asleep, you might even just write it at the top of your journal before you go to sleep, because just having the journal there, as you know, is such an intention setter for remembering your dreams. But if you go ahead and write your question on the journal as well, it's even more powerful. And you just hold the question as you're falling asleep, and it just be asking, just and let yourself go to sleep. And sometimes that can take many days. Sometimes you might have an answer right away. Sometimes you might not remember a dream at all, but you wake up and you know the answer, like you just got it. And there's so many stories about people throughout history having dreams where they were inventors or chemists, or the DNA molecule, everything came together with one image in a dream. And these things have changed the world in huge ways. Mathematicians, I mean, you name it, artists, music, film, scripts, all of that. So many people have been inspired by dreams or received information in dreams and then done something in their waking life on behalf of the dream, or used the answer to whatever the question was that they were holding to figure something out that has literally changed the world. So, you never know what you might be missing by not paying attention to your dreams. And it's like the Talmud saying, that an uninterpreted dream is like an unopened letter. What might you be missing out on if you're not writing down your dreams?
Yeah.
That's true.
That is true. Yeah. I really enjoy it. And it's something that I think from being so young, like mom said, we'd always go with her dream to her and, what did I dream? And we did look them up in the dream dictionary, and then she'd ask us questions. And so it was always fun and it was always exciting. So I think that's what really brought the passion to me to do it as I got older, right? To bring that into such a forefront in my mind. And I love it because, yeah, sometimes I dream, it's like 4 lines, and other times I dream it's like 2 pages.
Exactly.
So, and
Exactly.
you said your name of your book came in your dream.
Yeah, I just woke up with the name of the book, which was the dream tracking. The subtitle part came later, but dream tracking, I just woke up with it.
And so did you know you wanted to write a book, or was that just all of a sudden like, oh, wow, okay, I'm writing a book?
I always knew I wanted to write a book because I loved reading from like when I was 5. I loved books. To this day, I love books, and because I love learning, but I love stories and I love books. So I knew I wanted to write a book. I had no clue what I would write about. Absolutely no idea. And so what I did, so, obviously a little bit of a slow learner, it took me 18 years from that dream that I had in 2002 to when I actually got the book done. But the process of that was holding that title and the name, and then just noticing when things would go, oh yeah, you know what, that's part of this. Okay, that's part. And I had files, and I'd keep all my favorite quotes, and eventually, and I was also working in corporate America. So I mean, I had a very, very intense executive position, few of them over that time period. So I did it when I could. So it took a little bit longer, but yeah, so to answer your question, no, I did not completely know that I was going to be writing a book. And then when I got the title of the book, I'm like, okay, well, that gives me some structure to think about it in. And then I took it from there.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so intriguing to me about dreaming and just how much information we can get from dreams and how we can tap into different things. Like we can tap into past lives if that's what you believe. You can tap into that and bring that into this life to be able to help us out along our path and journey. And I that's what I really find intriguing and mystical to me about dreaming.
Oh yeah. Again, because there are no limits when you're dreaming.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah.
I guess another question for me would be, so okay, we were talking about bears earlier and whatever they mean to us, and that's so will that always mean the same thing, do you think, as you're going along your journey? Will that always symbolize power, let's just say
Mm.
for me? Will it always symbolize power, or could that change as I develop and live my life?
Yeah, and that's another great question. And I think it's both and, because there are certain people who have, let's just say, a spirit animal, that is their animal, and it shows up in all their dreams, and it always does. But there's also times where, even in my own life, where I had a really, really scary dream animal. And after I did all the work on myself, and over many, many years, what ended up happening is it kind of shape shifted into a little rat that wasn't scary at all. And I think that's where the tracking piece comes in as well, because I've had periods of my life where I literally did dream of bears all the time. And I mean, big bear dreams. I don't dream about bears, or I haven't now in a long time. But at that point in my life, they were very much up for me in my imagery. So I think, again, I think it really depends. I think that the animals oftentimes will shift in dreams over time, but also sometimes if they're an animal that feels like really part of who we are, they might not change. They might just keep showing up in dreams that way.
Yeah, that makes
A little
sense.
bit of both.
Yeah, I love that. So, what if you have something, a fear in the daytime, and can you deal with that fear through your dreams?
I think you can almost deal with anything in your dreams if you're willing to put in the work on it. But dreams have a way of showing us different perspectives about things. So in my waking life, I might have a fear, and let's just pretend it's spiders, okay? Just, you might be talking about something completely different, but just for the sake of conversation, let's say my fear is spiders. If in the dream time, dreams will have this ability to reposition something in a way that we get to look at it from a different set of eyes. And so in a dream, maybe, I'll just make this up, maybe the spider comes and is showing us, how amazing it is that it weaves this beautiful, incredible, artistic web, and we're mesmerized in the dream. And we wake up with a different feeling about spiders and go, oh, yeah, okay, there's something different. I think there's a lot of shifting of perspective available in dreams that show up. And again, that's why the journaling is so crucial, because if you're not writing them down and you're not bringing this kind of subconscious, unconscious material out, you're not getting to work on it. So as soon as you've written it down, though, you've given it a life. You've given it a voice, and it's going to be a reflection of you, in some way, shape, or form. So
Yeah, I like that. And I mean, not that to discredit like getting therapy if you obviously need
yes,
therapy,
absolutely.
but I always love how we can help ourselves. And I think mom is along the same lines, is like when you can help yourself do some of these things by digging into dreams or just journaling in general or whatever it may be. Like, why don't we do these things to try to help us along that journey? So even if we need a counselor or therapy or whatever, we can do some of this work on our own.
Absolutely. And I think just the act of journaling, like you just said, there are so many people who have done so well in life by journaling and keeping track just of their day, and journaling about how they're feeling and their emotions and their thought processes and everything else. There's a lot more to that than we realize. just, allowing this, to come out of our hand and write it down and then process it in a whole different way. So yeah, I'm a huge, huge believer in any kind of journaling, and also therapy if you need something more.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I too am a big journaler, so, and have been for years and years and years. And I really I credit my mom so much because she just allowed all this space for my brother and I to live this life. And I remember as a young child, she'd read to us like The Hobbit and things like that, that really got our minds going. And really, I think for me, brought my passion of reading and writing and those kind of things, and living that dream life and having that space available to you. So I definitely credit you, Mom, because I feel like I wouldn't journal and do the things, read like I love to read, if it hadn't been for her opening my eyes to that, right? So
Well, thank you, Kim. I appreciate that too.
Well, and it does bring another thing to my mind too, about playing with dreams and the imagination, and you mentioning The Hobbit. Dreams do activate the imagination, and also there is this creative, generative ability of dreams to, like I was mentioning the artists before, there are people who have painted things that they saw in dreams and written songs about things that they've seen. I've written poems about dreams that I've had. And there's a way of taking a dream and then turning it into art in whatever way your art form is, and it could be scribbles, it could be crayon drawings, it doesn't matter, but it's still another way of playing with that and accessing kind of that generative pull of dream work, just for fun also, right?
Right.
Just to get the imagination going.
yes, that is very true.
That was my thing with the kids too, as they were growing up. I was always open-minded to anything that came new, and I wanted them to sort of experience it too, because if it gave them any kind of a joy, or made them think, that was the thing, was how does that make you think, sort of thing, because it was about pulling more stuff out of them and seeing how life can be so much fun.
Yeah.
Trying to embrace how much fun life can be by just experiencing all the different doors that you could open and seeing what's behind them, right? And that there in itself is an inspiration, especially to kids, because they're so bloody nosy when they're little and they want to know. And so you're always trying to think of something else to say to them or do with them to make them think. And dreaming is a beautiful way, because it just really teaches them to pay attention to what's inside their mind. Yeah.
And
Do you
it's a
think you
huge
could
gift.
encourage children to do dream journaling? Obviously, if they were little, you'd have to do it on their behalf. But do you think there's a right age where we could introduce that? That just made me think of that, where we could introduce that dream journaling to them to kind of, open their minds to that, of the possibilities?
I believe so. And when it comes to children and dreams, you're not working on them to interpret them. You're just allowing it as an art form. So especially when kids are really little, maybe, you just have it as breakfast conversation. Oh, what did you dream this morning? Oh, what was that? Oh my goodness, there was a big dragon in your dream, whatever it was. But as they age, have them start drawing stuff and just keep them engaged in the idea that, oh gosh, dreams do matter. And you keep the psychology out of it when they're really little, because they're not there. But you turn it into an art form and as a creative outlet, and like Mom just said, it becomes something creative, and it's what's behind door number one, what's behind, always having the imagination. And I think as adults, even doing dream work, we still need to tap into that inner child as well, because it's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go to sleep because I don't know what I'm going to dream tonight. And it's it's of everything else in my life that's the same at this age, right? My dreams are the one thing that is always different every night, and it makes it more fun. Like you were
True.
saying, how do I bring more fun?
I wonder too, when you with Kim, I gave her a diary to write in when she was young. And we do that with our girls, but we don't do it with our boys. And I think we should do that with them because it would inspire them to do the same thing, to write things down, right? But in the days where you didn't do that, it was a girl thing. But nowadays, it's not. It never
Right.
was, really, if you think about it, right?
Right.
So it would probably inspired my son even more so to write things down more so and do things like that. Something to think about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there, I know so many male dream workers now, or men who journal. I mean, it is definitely more common now. Thank
Nice.
goodness.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
It definitely is. Well, you look at like even Matthew McConaughey, and I mean, his whole book was based on his journaling throughout the day. Like he said, he never walks around without paper and a pen that he can jot down quick little thoughts. And it's like his daily journal. And then he wrote that book. So,
Yes.
I mean, I think, like you said, it's getting more well versed than it was in the past, but which is lovely to see. My feeling. So,
Yes, fine.
if you had to leave everybody with a final thought, what would it be?
Oh gosh, I guess my final thought would just be, again, if you're not writing down your dreams, what might you be missing? And what else might be available to you if you started paying attention to them? Because we open up to a world of the mystical and the magical and the magnificent in dreams. And even though not all of them are going to be fun, they're all coming on behalf of our well-being, of our own balance for healing and wholeness. So dream work really, really does matter, but dream work can also be so much fun. So just encouraging people to just start writing them down. Just see what happens.
Perfect. I love that. And can you tell us where everybody can find you?
Yes, yes. So my website it's just my my unmarried name, so it's bambicorso.com. And I have information about myself there. Like I said, I have this a free download of the 10 top tips for remembering your dreams that people can access immediately if they're interested in starting to remember and write down their dreams tonight.
Perfect. Perfect.
Oh, and my book is on Amazon. And again, the name is Dream Tracking, all one word, but it's right on Amazon.
Wonderful. Well, we will put a link in the show notes to all of that stuff, and then we will actually put a link on our website to your book for everybody so that they can just click in there and do that. So it's been such a pleasure talking to you. I think for me, dreams are, both of us love it so much. We could talk to you forever on it.
For hours, right? Yes. No, and thank you so much. I'm very grateful to be able to be part of your show. And it's just a real blessing to meet both of you. So thank you.
Right back at you. Very nice to meet you too.
Yes, very nice to meet you. You'll have to come back some other time and we'll talk more dreams and
sounds good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And everybody else, tune in next time.
You bet.